Well, hello and welcome. Hope you are staying warm as this week has definitely made the fall weather evident. And maybe this is a great opportunity now for you to enjoy your cozy flannels and hooded sweatshirts and pumpkin spice lattes and whatnot. So hope you're doing well. This past Sunday was a very encouraging time together as we met for worship, and we heard from our missionary Brian, who's based out of Turkey, and he just did a great job reminding us of the way that God accomplishes His purposes, and it reminds us that what seems daunting in the eyes of men is already done in God's eyes. And I was reminded of this in my own devotional time, going through the stories and accounts in Genesis and just seeing the Lord saying to Abraham and Sarah in regard to their covenant promise of the seed that was supposed to come from Abraham to be a nation that cannot be numbered. And the Lord says to them, "Is anything impossible for the Lord?" And of course the answer is no. Nothing is impossible for the Lord, that He is almighty and He accomplishes His purposes. And that was something that Brian did a great job of reminding us of this past Sunday. And for me, even this past week, I had met with a group of worship leaders for prayer. And in the midst of that time, an individual had just shared the difficulty she and her family have been going through and facing. And but in the midst of that, she expressed how it's brought her to a greater dependency on God and given her a greater awareness of the ways that God has been working and providing for her and her family. And someone asked if she had been writing these things down, these God moments down, these answered prayers that she's seen. And she was able to share how she had been journaling these things, and that they regularly have been using those moments as times of reflection as a family to glorify God. And this got me thinking about my own journey, and at what points in my life have I seen God accomplish things where I thought were daunting, but God said that it's already done. He's already taken care of it. And though I don't personally keep a journal regularly and write down prayers and such, the Lord did bring something to mind almost immediately. And I'm going to take a little time to just share that moment with you as, again, another point of encouragement to say God is at work in our lives for our good, for His glory, and to accomplish His purposes throughout the world and building His kingdom. And so many of you may not know, but my daughter Evelyn was born with hearing loss in her left ear. And so at an early age, we would regularly go to ENT appointments where they would monitor the hearing in her good ear, make sure there was no loss or decrease in ability to hear in her good ear, and just kind of see where things were standing in her left ear. And so at one of these appointments, when she was 6 years old, they found a hole in her eardrum, in her good ear. And it was a decent-sized hole, but they thought at the moment that it could be monitored and it may repair itself in time. And so at that follow-up appointment to see where things were at, it had not healed itself at all. It was still there, and the decision was made that it's past the point where we should have seen something happening, moving towards healing if it were to happen. And so we would want to schedule a surgery to get it repaired. And so we had decided that that's the route we needed to go. We had scheduled the surgery, and the week of the surgery, we just made our prayer request known to our church family. And they began to pray on our behalf about this time where we were taking our 6-year-old daughter in for surgery on her ear to repair that perforation, that hole. And we got to the hospital that morning, and Evelyn was all prepped and ready to go. And they had run one more test just to make sure everything was ready to go, that they were doing the right surgery, that it still needed surgery, etc. And they came back and they said, the hole is healed. There's no need for surgery. And the doctor said that it was a miracle, that the size of the hole and the length of the time given for it to heal itself, it should not have healed on its own without the need for surgery. And so in that moment, we and our praying church rejoiced and gave God the glory, because what seemed daunting to us was already done in God's timing, in God's eyes, and His glory was put on display. And you know what? And I'm sure you may be able to recall moments in your own lives where you have had something daunting and God has shown up and said it's done, and just taking care of things in ways that you would not have asked, expected, or imagined. But God shows, and we use those times as a testimony to God's goodness, God's faithfulness, God's authority to fulfill His perfect will in our lives and in the world. And that's what Brian pointed out to us this past Sunday in his talk on the two walls of Jerusalem, the story of the two walls, and also there's just the stuff going on in ministry in Turkey. And so this next week we're going to be jumping back into our Colossians series, all in, right? Living a life worthy of the Lord. And so maybe as you go about your week, maybe consider the snapshots of your own life, right? The snapshots like our opening video and picture collage thing of our graphic, the snapshots of how you see God, Christ in you, right, lived out. And maybe you actually have a physical photograph that depicts Christ in you being lived out in kindness and love and forgiveness or whatnot. You can share those with us through our Instagram or our Facebook account at Faith Evangelical Free Church on those two platforms, and just put a little description in there and let us know what it is we're seeing as Christ is displayed in you. So again, keep warm, and I look forward to seeing you on a Sunday and the warmth of our fellowship together. God bless.